Welcome, everybody, to another Mindset Morning and a new chapter of Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And as you guys know, my normal model is to reach out and ask what your takeaways are. Yet this chapter was so powerful, not only in the content and the way it was laid out, that I'm really going to look for you guys to take on a specific piece, and we're going to do it in order. Because we have got the 7 definitions of taking responsibility, and we have the 6 tools to help you get power over yourself and over your world. So I just want to throw out a few things here because we've talked a lot about this, and the content so aligns with what Coach Camacho and I teach you guys. Are you a victim, or are you taking responsibility for your life? So many of us think we're responsible for our own lives when simply we are not. We have a victim mentality. A victim mentality of pointing outward, of blaming circumstances, blaming people, blaming something other than ourselves. And every time we do that, we give our power to someone or something else. The truth is, no matter what, you really are in control, in total control of everything in your life. And here's what I mean by it. Yes, there are things that happen. How we analyze those things that happen, how we respond to those things that happen, are totally in our control. And that is some of what we're going to do to take steps. Now, coming to this conclusion that you're totally in control can be a little upsetting when you begin to see yourself initially, as maybe some of you have, that you're your own worst enemy. Because if you're in total control, that means all the story in your head you've created. On the other hand, this realization is your biggest blessing. If you know you can create your own misery, it stands to reason that now you can create your own joy. And here's what we're not doing. We're not asking you to believe you're responsible for all experiences in life. We're asking you to believe that you're the cause. And there's a big difference in those two, and people get them confused. Responsible means you're to blame. And we don't want to get in the blame game, especially of ourselves, and we'll get into some of that going forward. And yet we want to look at where's our DNA? Where did we make something happen that created this, which means in the future, we can do something different. So there's 7 definitions of taking responsibility. Who had something out of number 1? They could read what that definition is and then talk about it. Who'd like to start with that one?
Can I give an example?
Go for it, Celeste. What do you got?
So number 1 says taking responsibility means never blaming anyone else for anything you are being, doing, having, or feeling. Never, you say, but this time it really is his fault. The only thing I can reference in my life right now from back when is the process of when I went through my divorce. I was very, very angry, and every word out of my mouth was what he wasn't, he didn't, he whatever. And there is a place in life where that may be appropriate, but you have to get out of it. And I did finally, it's taken a long, long time. But when you finally realize that this anger that you've stayed in, this place of anger, it also keeps you from being a better you. And so if I was going to say anything, that's my analogy, is this divorce process. I say, you got to get out. You have to push yourself to get out of that and find out what is it that you are, who are you being, and what are you doing about it? And I guess this example too applies to as you're in business and you're in sales, how are you being? Like, I am not being my best self. I know this right now. I want to be the best self, but I am still not being my best self. To be honest with yourself is step one. And if you're not being honest, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So there you go. That's me.
And again, these all start with taking responsibility needs. Every one of these 7 starts with that. Never blaming anyone else for anything you are being, doing, having, or feeling. It's always you. And until you fully understand that you and no one else creates what goes on in your head, you will never be in control of your life. We're going to start controlling what's going on between the ears. Who's got number 2? Evelyn, I see you chatting. You want to get your mic hot?
Yep. Oh, it's on. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this would be the Alice person. Taking responsibility means not blaming yourself. I know this sounds kind of contradictory, but it is. It is not. So mine would be my children. I think I'm going great, and then all of a sudden something happens. But I'm working real hard and saying they're adults. It's not my fault now.
Yeah. Here's the key with this. Don't make yourself a victim of yourself. So many times we're in this blame game, and as we start to shift and catch ourselves from blaming others, then we just turn around and blame ourselves.
Mhm.
And it's still the same pattern. So once you become aware that you've created so much of your own unhappiness, you may have a tendency to punish yourself and put yourself down. Knock that off. No, it's important for you to understand you have always done the best you possibly could at the moment with what you had. In fact, you might want to write this one down. I believe everyone is doing the best they can in the moment. And all of my suffering is just my judgment of them. And I choose not to suffer. So I got to let go of that. And once in a while, I catch myself suffering. I mean, it's been years of this. There is absolutely no need to be upset with your past, present, or future behavior. It's all simply part of the learning process. And yes, you cause your own unhappiness, but this is no reason to cast blame. It's a learning opportunity to catch yourself and start changing it. All of this is a learning experience. All we're in. This whole thing we call life that none of us are getting out of alive is just one great learning experiment. So who's got number 3?
This is Jennifer. I'll take 3.
Thank you, Jennifer.
So it says taking responsibility means being aware of where and when you're not taking responsibility so that you can eventually change. And just to take that a step further as it continues to talk about 3 into the next page, the big highlighted spot for me was I finally learned that there's only one person in the world who can make me happy, and that is me. And I feel like this is so huge. I mean, I feel like I learned this probably in about 2015, similar to Celeste, going through a divorce and just really taking that responsibility on myself. And now everything I approach in my life is that way. I'll walk away from clients if I realize they're toxic and I don't care about the money. And it has completely changed everything of my whole entire existence.
Yeah.
That one little concept.
Part of taking that responsibility is not plugging into it. I love how she was talking in this section about before she caught herself and started making these changes. When things were going awry, she'd call her friends and other people, and it would turn into this pity party, which she called a moan and groan society, where it was a big bitch fest of everything that was wrong and how bad it was and how terrible. And they all bought into that negative emotion. Maybe, just maybe, you've seen 2 things either called real estate masterminds or lab coat agents. 2 Facebook pages that when you see it's just a bitch session. So the most extreme example of this that I have personally witnessed is my buddy Brent Gove. Because if somebody comes up to him, and Gene Frederick does the same thing, and starts to bitch and complain, mid-conversation, they'll just walk away. They are getting nowhere near this. Who has got number 4?
Is that the Chatterbox one?
That is indeed the Chatterbox. Nice.
Well, I'm still working off of the audio. Okay, so that one says taking responsibility means handling the chatterbox, the little nonstop voice inside that drives you crazy. Part of my problem is the little nonstop voice that's inside my head usually comes out of my mouth. So I like to share that. I typically don't just keep it inside, but I think for me it's huge because like I started doing these ice baths and I was negotiating with myself, right? So I knew I needed to do it. I had put this goal in my head that I was going to do it because it was hard and difficult. And I would find myself negotiating in my head, oh, well, this morning I don't want to do it because this, or, oh, I have to do this. And so that little voice that tries to keep you from taking responsibility, sometimes you have to have that power to say, okay, like, nope, I'm not negotiating. I'm doing this. And it does get easier and easier to be able to recognize that. Shut it down so there's not that negativity.
In our world, in our corner of the universe, what do we call that little chatterbox sitting on our shoulder?
Drunk monkey.
Thank you very much, Mark. We are still relying on it being the drunk monkey. Says it's drunk, it's out of control, it's only doing what it can to hold you back from possibility, and it truly is a fear-based critter sitting there. And so aware of it, catching it, and dealing with it is absolutely key. I'm going to stay on track here. Who's got number 5?
Come on, somebody.
I'll keep talking.
Take it. Go.
Go, Rachel.
Taking responsibility means being aware of the payoffs that keep you stuck. So again, like one thing that a lot of times I feel like keeps me stuck is my location, my geographic location. And so jumping on, and Jana Lee's on here, and she and I have had a lot of conversations about that because we're in the same office in the same town. But sometimes we have to reevaluate some of the things that we learn in some of these, these little rooms. And when we go to masterminds and some of these events, we gotta really evaluate, what's the payoff and what's keeping us stuck, and how can we trade off and make this work for where we're at. And we feel limited, but that's also just a mindset thing where we feel like we get stuck. And so it's been interesting trying to figure out how to take responsibility to not allow some of our circumstances to keep us in that stuck mindset, for sure.
Yeah, and these payoffs that we're talking about, they're a little harder to really get in touch with. So I'm going to give you a little grace on this, all of you. And yet, for everything in your world that isn't serving you, so anything that you're doing where you're being a victim, where you're not doing it, there is something you get, a reward you get from being in that space. So like the first analogy I use of the moan and groan society, you being in that negative state, in that pity party, you get the payoff of your friends feeding into you and telling you you're okay and telling you you're right. I mean, how many of you, and I don't want to see hands, have complained about a spouse or significant other to someone else who has told you that you're right? And you got that little hit of dopamine that, oh, look, I'm right. And it really wasn't getting you to where you desire in the way of power. a powerful, wonderful, amazing relationship, whatever it is. And so looking for these payoffs, what's the flip side of every one of these? There's a coin, a pain and pleasure coin. And so you're avoiding the pain of whatever it is. And at the same time, you also are getting some kind of pleasure. And that's really what this is looking for in the payoffs. Starting to be aware and paying attention into what's giving you that dopamine hit that isn't serving you. So it could be this being right or looking good. It could be, it somehow attracts attention that you want. It's a lot of little pieces that you guys get to start analyzing and discovering of, okay, what's really the intrinsic motivation causing this behavior, not just the pain I don't want to do, the pleasure piece I'm getting out of it at the same time. And Camacho, since this key is so important, you got anything to add to this?
This hit on a lot of cylinders, this whole chapter on what we're doing about the mindset. And one thing that's fascinating is we can't control the first thought that comes into our mind. I mean, that first thought, is going to be there. And yet the challenge is controlling every thought that comes after that. And that's the challenge, getting that switch. Because, how many of us get cut off driving down the freeway, and all we want to tell that person was, you're number one, right? And we've got to hold back, because there's a million reasons why they could be in a hurry, why they cut you off. And there's a million reasons how you could have been protected by that act of slowing down, maybe protecting you from something worse down the street. So it's really just that thinking, and get in the habit to totally think differently, because it starts up here. And a lot of us, me included, we get in that trap and we go down this rabbit hole. And the first rule of getting out of a hole is to stop digging. So we got to stop digging and stop that complaining, stop that negative thought, so we can continue moving forward. But really, this is just, I think, all about thinking. What's that first thought for all of these examples?
And here's the fun part for me, Robert, that first thought, like you said, you have no control over now. It's the subconscious showing up that you immediately go to that negative spot, which means you get a pass on it. There's no blame, as she talks about in the earlier part here. So you don't get cranky that, gosh darn it, I felt negative. Win. Instead, you get to be powerful in, I'm going to change it. I'm not going to stay in that state. I'm going to choose a different level of energy to move forward. And that's where the work begins. As he's saying, you got to work on it. You got a lot of programming to do. Both Robert and I, my goodness, we still have patterns. We've been saturating this material for over a decade and are still working on it every single day. Who's got number 6?
So the one, just act on it.
What was that, Ryan?
Just act on it, right?
I like how you just grab that second half of it, which is the most important to me. I'll read it for you and then you can elaborate. Taking responsibility means figuring out what you want in life, and then act on it. What do you got on that, Ryan?
So many times we just get caught up in all the, sorry to be this person, but the BS in life. And instead of just doing it, we get caught up in what other people are thinking, or what we're thinking of ourselves about it. Like, just do it. Like, what the only people holding you back is you. So just, if you would just put action into your life, it is amazing what you can accomplish.
So for me, Ryan, I want to put this in simplest terms for all of you. You've been taught ready, aim, fire. And I'm telling you, I would love for you to start living fire, aim, ready. Run it backwards for a while. Just, you have an idea that you believe will work, take action. as well as this fear piece, it also shows up the fear as over-analyzing. I can't tell how many people I've talked to about maybe it's the recruiting piece and coming to EXP. And they got to overanalyze and overanalyze and they know that it makes sense. And there's still these fear pieces hanging out there that they mask under analysis. So just be watching for that in your own life. Are you really taking action? The difference between average people and successful people. Average people will look at something and relook at it and relook at it and relook at it. And then maybe they'll take action. And even when they're in action, then they'll change their mind and go back to a different path. Highly successful people take a moment to analyze the data they've got in front of them. And then they make a decision. They take massive action for two reasons. One, massive action to just say goodbye to the fear. And two, massive action to prove that the choice they made was the right choice. Even along the way, when it looks like the wrong choice and bad and breakdown, they continue to go to prove they were right. Think about this with Elon Musk. I am going to fly rockets that can also land back on Earth. That was a mathematical, physical impossibility up to this decade. And by the way, did he have some spectacular crashes along the way? Time and time and time again. Used every one of them as a learning lesson, and ultimately now has something that could never be done before completed and a path to make really good money from it. Who's got number 7?
Well, you know, just to say something about what about the rockets. Do you know when he made the decision to start building rockets? On the flight back from speaking to the Russians who turned him down, he waited all of an hour for action. Not only action, but immediate, sustained action. He didn't hang on and just let me think about moving forward. He immediately did it.
Awesome. So while you're here, Clint, take on number 7. What do you got? Because I love this one.
No, that was just it, man. That's just, I mean, the immediate action, and that's one of the things that I'm really working on. It's just
roll into number 7 though. What's 7?
Oh, I don't have that. I'm sorry. I'm on the audiobook. I'm not following it that closely. I apologize.
Not a problem. Who else has number 7? Janalee does. Go.
I'll take it. So taking responsibility means being aware of the multitude of choices you have in any given situation. So this really hit home this last week. I have a 15-year-old son who is in track, and he woke up late for his alarm, and I'm driving him to the bus to get on, and he's like, this is going to suck. It's going to be snowy weather, and we're already late, and it's just going to be crappy, and I'm gonna suck at it. And I go, you have got to change your mindset. If you think it's going to suck, you're going to run like crap. I go, you've got a choice to make. You can either think it's going to suck and run like crap, or you can change your mind and be happy and have a good run. And this sums it up. We have choices to make every point in our life. And we can choose to wake up happy. We can choose what we're going to do every point of our day. And we can choose what we're going to do every point of our day. And we can choose how we're going to react to what anything comes our way throughout our day. Every single time, anything that happens throughout our day, we get a choice. And that's basically it. It's up to us what happens throughout our day, how we react, and how we act.
And here's the fun part of this, Janalee. We have multiple choices in any moment.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of opportunity, lots of choices, lots of opportunity, lots of different paths. You're not locked into any one. That's what I love about like setting a goal and going after it. Guys, if it doesn't fit, you get to change. As Jim Rohn said, you're not a tree. You get to move. Do something different. So let's quickly brush on the 6 tools to help you find this power and shudder this fear. Let's do them in like 15-second rotations. And I want everybody who spoke, it's okay you speak again. Who's got number 1?
I'll do it. The 6 exercises, or are you talking about
The
something else?
6 tools to help you find your power. So you might be calling it 6 exercises. It's on page 56 if you have your book in front of you.
All right. Well, my book is different, so I'll just
So
say
probably 66 or 46. I think you're 10 pages one way or the other.
Yeah, 69.
If I was to say list all the payoffs you get
Bingo.
from staying stuck,
Boom.
okay. So number 1, list all the payoffs you get from staying stuck in some aspect of your life. What you don't have to face, what you don't have to do. What comfort do you get? What image do you get to hold on to? And be as honest with yourself as you possibly can. And when you are aware of what you're doing, you will automatically discard a lot of your robot-like behavior, and you will lead yourself instead of being led.
Boom. Who's got number 2? And you don't have to go into quite the detail Celeste did. That's fine. So we can run through these. Evelyn, I saw your hand go.
Okay. Be aware of all your options you have during the course of a given day. And then you can analyze the situation, difficult, possible, happy, unhappy. It goes on, sad or whatever. So each time you are upset, be conscious of the alternatives available to you. Again, make it a game.
Gamify that sucker. Have fun with this. Have fun with playing with. I got lots of choices. Which one am I going to take? Number 3. Who's got it? Go, Ryan.
Notice what you say in conversations with your friends. If you see if you're doing a lot of complaining, this is a marvelous opportunity to turn around and see if you can learn something about yourself.
Absolutely. Number 3 is listen to yourself. Listen, be present, and listen to your words and see what you're catching. Who's got number 4? Just give me the header, number 4. Somebody.
Choose your
Choose your
experience.
experiences.
Thank you. Choose your experiences. Thank you, Kara. Robert, what's number 5?
Find the gift in everything.
Everything is a gift, guys. Everything, whether good, bad, different. I mean, I lost millions of dollars with a bad partnership that drove me to bankruptcy, and I had to get rid of everything. And I wouldn't be sitting here today with you guys if it didn't happen. It was a flippin' gift. Who's got number 6? One more.
Ditch the criticism.
Criticism of others, criticism of yourself. Let's stop being judging machines and instead be gratitude machines. Guys, it's Tuesday, right? Yes, it's Tuesday. My days are blurring together. I'm working so much. So we have the accelerator meeting at 10 o'clock Central, meeting.com/epic. You're part of the Epic world, or even a guest that's here, by all means, jump in there. That is where they're really focusing on the recruiting agent attraction piece. This is especially for new agents because you are automatically in the EXP Accelerator program and have a lot of opportunity for revenue. And then again, this afternoon, we have our call time going from 2 to 5. I won't be there because you guys have me stacked with meetings, and I love that. And yet I would love for you guys to step up, lead it, and help each other, hold each other accountable to having conversations. So love y'all. Glad you're here. Amazing seeing this room growing. Amazing seeing people sticking to it. Again, we will wrap this book up the end of next week. And starting the following week, I believe it's the 22nd of April, we will be reading Chet Holmes and The Ultimate Sales Machine. So I want to make sure you guys, 1, have the book, and 2, inviting others. Let's help people in other industries, other companies increase their revenue in what is such a volatile year here, 2024.